All right, Madan, welcome. To everyone watching, Madan and I go way back, worked together as analysts at Capital
Yep.
One, and we reconnected talking about, vibe coding and cool stuff that we're both building. And so today I'm going to talk to Madan about a very cool website and app that he's built. But first of all, for everyone watching, what could you give us just a quick overview of your professional background?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you, Shalin. It's been some time, but as Shalin, as you were saying, we go way back. I have my professional background is that of a product manager, and prior to that, I was a business analyst. Primary focus has always been in financial services institutions, so I've led like product roles in places like Capital One, Goldman Sachs, Freddie Mac, and most recently in Berkadia Commercial Mortgage. So that's purely the focus, financial services, but technology and product management.
Very cool. And then everyone's always curious, like you said, business analyst, those roles can be super tech and product manager. They can be technical, they can be less technical. How much coding experience or technical abilities would you say you had before you started this project?
So at one point in time, I would code in SQL. And the reason why I would code in SQL is I talked about my stints as a product manager and a business analyst before. And the only reason I would use SQL is to pull data to for my analysis or just trying to understand what's going on with the apps or tools that I'm managing for in my product management stints. And that's about it. I was aware while talking to engineers about other technologies. People talked about Python, Java, and you name it. But if you were to ask me to write a line of code in any of those technologies, I would find that super difficult. Impossible probably is the right answer.
Okay, cool. Okay, so limited but some knowledge.
Yeah.
And and tell us about the idea. So we'd love to hear exactly what the idea was and
Sure.
how you decided to pursue this.
So my son went to college last year. And as everybody knows, if you're going off to college, then you talk about money, talk about cards. And we were trying to figure out what's the right card for him and how should he use it. And that's when I realized that, there's a lot of information out there on the web. If you look up a specific card, there are a lot of things, a lot of strategies about the best ways to use it. But every situation, mine, yours included, is unique. You have one, two, everybody today has at least a couple of cards or even more. So if I put all of those cards together, it's not necessary that, the information that you see on the web kind of resonates with us. And that's where I thought that, hey, I need a better way. I need a more personalized level of suggestions. I thought that this would be like a perfect use case for AI, where I could use like an AI model that can analyze my situation and give me recommendations. And that's where this idea came up that hey, maybe this is a good idea for an app.
Okay, that's great. And so tell us about the tech stack you used that you used to build this. Like, what are the actual, there's so many vibe coding tools, there's coding tools, there's just using something like ChatGPT. What are the different tools that you use for this project?
So before I jump into the text, I'm going to give a little background of how I got into vibe coding. So again, as a product manager, one of the things I was trying to do was build data or create data for testing for my engineering team. And, I could somehow manage my way through SQL, but my engineer said that, hey, why don't you use Python? I did not know Python. So I said, okay, maybe I could use some of these models and help, they can generate some Python code for me that I could run. And that's where it started. I experimented a little with a few of these, coding editors. I looked at ChatGPT. I've tried out Gemini as well. I thought Claude was the most responsive. Claude was the one that which was would give me the best output, minimal amount of hallucinations where I could Claude would respond to the requirements that I would give it. So that's what I took it. Coming back to my engineering team, they had asked me to use Visual Studio Code to run my Python scripts. And then I said, okay, if that's the case, then I found out that I can actually run Claude code through Visual Studio Code as well. So I said, yeah, this is perfect because if I then have Claude code installed in Visual Studio, Claude would generate the code. Claude can test it, and you can ask it to save it in a repository or even deploy to production. All of those things it can do. So that was fantastic for me. So that's what I have. So to answer your question, I know long-winded answer. Uh, Cloud Code with Visual Studio is the path that I took. And of course, what it does is it uses Python, generates Python code, and also front end is HTML.
Okay, very cool. So this, what's interesting about that to me is, a lot of people are that haven't coded are a little averse or skeptical about using Claude Code.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they just launched something Claude Cowork that makes it a little bit easier for people who can't
Mhm.
code. So people who usually can't code, starting and you tend to start in something like Replit or
Yeah.
Lovable. So I think it's great to hear that you even limited coding experience went directly into
Yeah.
Claude Code. Was there a big steep learning curve for you? Did you feel like?
It wasn't too bad. And actually, in full disclosure, I have experimented a little with like Replit and Lovable. And my experience was Replit and Lovable try to keep a little more control in the kind of code and coding artifacts that they generate. Cloud Code is a little open. They would just generate the files and the files are with you. So tomorrow, if you want to move away from Cloud Code to some other coding editor, like you always have that with you. With Replit and Lovable, it might be a little difficult. So not really, it hasn't been much of a challenge, but it did take some time because you had to experiment and like figure out what really works for you. So that took a little while.
Okay, cool. And so what are some well, I guess I didn't even ask, how long have you been working on this project?
It's been about 3 months now that I've been working on. I mean, I've been experimenting a little bit a little before that, but this project started in all seriousness about 3 months back, sometime just around the fall.
And if you had to estimate how much time you've put into it, what would it be? I know it's a tough to estimate, but the amount of like hours put into it over those
Uh,
3 months.
uh, I think it's a few, maybe a few hundred hours is what would be the
200
best.
hours.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So then you've learned a lot through that
Yes.
process. So what a lot of people out there that I've talked to are doing like
Mhm.
they're earlier on that journey. They may have put in 40, 80 hours on a project. What are some lessons that you've learned through this process that you want people to know before they go as far as you've gone?
So this ties to a lot towards prompting, right? And whether you're vibe coding or otherwise, when you're using a language model, the way you construct your prompt, the way you, as long as you're giving as the enough context to the language model, the more context that you give, the better output that you have. I think that mantra is applicable even for vibe coding. Uh, as being a product manager, what I have tend to do is I write requirements document. So that way I write the PRDs and I give Claude Code hey, here is my PRD. Why review this and let's figure out how we can best execute these requirements. I also ask Claude Code to generate documentation for the code that it has created. So that way, if I need to understand or if I need to figure out what's going on, or for that matter, if I need to go from one session of Claude Code to the other, that is also helpful. So that's one of those hidden things that people tend to miss. Everybody talks about generating code, but these models are super helpful in creating documentation, which can be used as a reference for you later on as well.
Documentation is a great point. I've not done that myself, so I'll definitely start to implement that.
Yeah.
And then what are your goals for the project? Is this like just a little personal side project? Do you intend to grow this? What are your goals, and how can anyone who watches this and tries it out help you?
So this app that I built, Coco, uh, what it does is as long as you can tell it, what are the cards that you're using, it will give you very actionable advice about, hey, when do you use a card in a certain situation? Uh, it will tell you about, like, it will help. There are some planners, as I call it, where it can help you plan a vacation, help you plan a large purchase. Uh, these are, I would say, like, I'm just scratching the surface here because I feel there's a lot of things that you could do you previously could not, because now you have like language models supporting you. What I would love to get from you and your audience is, if you all can like take a look at the uh, app and give me some feedback. Where I want to take this forward is, like, currently the app is using publicly available information about about all credit cards. Eventually, I want to take it to a state where users should be able to access their own card transactions, and the advice that you get from the app is a lot more personal. But to get there, there's a lot more work involved, a lot more investments involved, and you know, before I get to that position, I would love to get feedback about, hey, how useful is the app in the way it stands today for you all? What things would you like to see? What are, like, additions, changes, you name it. Any kind of feedback would be super helpful. Try it out. Let me know how you all feel.
Great. Yeah, I've tried it out. I recommend it to others. It's already helped me out a good bit. So, um, thanks for talking to me and sharing what you're working on. Hopefully, people will try it out and give you feedback, and you'll continue to build it from there. I love the idea of pulling in your actual transaction data and helping you get even more like hyper tuned about how to use your
Yeah,
credit card. So I think that would be very cool.
awesome.
All right. Thank you, Madan.
Yep. Thank you.